Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Hello, everybody. This is Rob Nelson, and today I'm going to start with the punchline first. Our guest is a rookie in real estate who did 20 transactions for $28 million in volume in his very first year. Today's episode is all about how he did that. So Koby Bishop, thank you so much for being here with me. Now, the reason that you hit my radar is not because you're an agent at the group, but because RISMedia landed an email in my inbox that said, one of your people is a finalist for the RISMedia Rookie of the Year for 2025. So you have made it all the way to one of 5 finalists for Rookie of the Year. You're getting on a plane in a couple of months to find out if you win that award. I think you should. And I said, let's talk about how you did it. So Koby, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Why don't we start with everything you did prior to real estate? Because you have an interesting story leading up to that may set the stage a little bit for who you are, where you came from, and how you ended up in real estate.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, it's great to be here and kind of dive into how I created a great business my first year in real estate and then the path to get there. I would say the first my path before real estate is my mom's been in real estate for 20 plus years. And so I've really grown up in real estate, and I've interned for several realtors at the group, both on the commercial side and residential side. And it led to, just a little passion, and maybe this is something I could make of a career in the future. But to start off, in the past, I went to college to play baseball, and I played 5 years in baseball, 6 years in baseball in college, got my master's degree, and it was amazing to make all the connections I did in school and then travel across the country and just get those experiences. And then I was fortunate enough to play 2 years of professional baseball beyond that. And while I was going through that whole process, during the off seasons, I would intern with realtors just to see, hey, is this something I really want to dive into?
Yeah.
And I think real estate's such a game of repetition. And through those experiences, I learned, I got to see behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And so in the off seasons, when I was working for my mom, she'd give me kind of all her transactions, and she would talk me through the contracts, and we deal through, the things that come up in a transaction. And so I just kind of learned, and I was always kind of on the sideline, but always learning for 3-4 years before I really started to take the dive.
It's funny. My colleague, Peter Parnig, refers to himself as an SOB, a son of a broker. And one of the things that's so interesting about this relationship is some people would probably say, oh, well, that's the story, right? That's Koby's story. It's nepotism. Mm-hmm. His mom's a successful real estate agent who passed business to him. But those of us who have either worked with a parent or a spouse, in my case, realize that sometimes the closer you are to your business partner or to your mentor, the harder they are on you and the harder the path is. So we're going to unpack a little bit of that, but it's a remarkable story that you started off as a professional athlete who made a go of it. You had a successful career, a few bumps along the way, but in your off season, both as a college athlete and a professional athlete, you would come back and intern. You would do grunt work for real estate agents, and finally decided it was time to throw your oar in the water. So tell me, what was the catalyst that led you from I'm working with my mom or other agents here to deciding, okay, now is the time I'm going to go out on my own and sign that independent contractor agreement?
Yeah, I think it was just as kind of life changes and the door closed on baseball, and it was the question of, all right, what's next? And I was getting married that October of 2023, and I needed to quickly find a path. And real estate was an easy transition because I did have experience in it, just being around it so much. And so I got my license and jumped all in as a licensed assistant with my mom. And she structured it beautifully. You talk about working with a parent and kind of the different angles that go into that. And she had seen working in 20 plus years, very successful relationships between a parent and a child, and failures between a parent and a child. And so she'd picked a few people's brains on how to make that successful. And we pretty much oriented it. She knew how competitive I was as a person. And so she was like, all right, you're going into a commission-based business. I'm going to give you a commission-based salary or a very small salary just so you have
Sure.
someone to start your life with.
Yeah.
And then everything else will be commission based. And it was very small. And I was like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah.
And so I jumped in, and she can attest to this, but since it was more commission based, I showed up every day and I was like, all right, how are we going to put a damn deal together? Because
Yeah.
I want to get paid more. And that's when that year she actually increased her business by over 40% and just launched herself into a whole new level. And I think I was a small piece of that, but definitely a squeaky piece, because I kept coming in every day wanting to push the business forward. And I think in that year of me being just a licensed assistant, I learned how to attract business and how to chase business and kind of how that works, because I saw it in my mom's business. And so then in 2024, when I decided to go out on my own, still under the branch of the Bishop real estate team, and with the guidance of my mom, I still had a framework of, all right, how do you chase leads? How do you network? How do you use your flow to attract people? And then once you attract people, really how to take advantage of that and take the next step for them into home ownership or into the next home they see their family in.
Makes perfect sense. I think the most obvious question that anybody would have, whether they're brand new to real estate as well, or there's somebody that says, all right, like I get all the philosophy you're talking about. How'd you get your first clients? What is the story of that? And my guess is you suddenly found yourself in competition with your mentor, right? There were probably situations where, your mom said, that's actually my client. I'll be servicing this one. Thank you. So tell us, how'd you get your first client or the other early clients?
Yeah, it was that's so funny you mentioned that, because our networks are obviously very intertwined just from being in the same family. And it's funny, in Ninja, the first thing my mom actually made me do when I got my license was go to a Ninja course, and they tell you to name 100 people that you know. And I was going through that list and I was like, Jesus, probably 70% of these are my mom's already serviced them, or they would be kind of considered her client. So basically at that point, you have two decisions, and it's either, kind of cry about it and try to complain and negotiate with my mom on whose clients are whose, or go out, get in flow and create other opportunities.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what pushed me. Is I joined several different networking groups. A few of them are strictly for athletes, really leveraged into my athletic background.
Yeah.
And then a few hobbies of mine like golf and stuff. And then my close immediate friends. And I would just network and be in flow every single day. And it's funny now, I look back in that first year and my mom jokes, she goes, I think you sold every single one of your friends a house. And it was good timeline too, or good timing, because a lot of them were getting married, they're having babies,
Sure.
all the things for life changes, especially in a down market, you really got to focus on life changes. But a lot of that was networking outside of the family, going into those avenues and finding the pain points in their life and trying to fix them for them.
Absolutely. I think the friends and family branch of what's possible in business is often overlooked because, sure, people take it for granted. Those are your friends. Of course, they did business with you, but they also, you have other friends that are realtors, right? And they made a decision to work with you. It's not that you were the only person that they knew or the only person in the world that could help them get into that home. They chose to work with you. And in some of the interviews that you've done, because RISMedia's interviewed you probably ad nauseum about this, right? The relentless focus on client success and your client's journey has been one of the keys for you. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think the saying goes, everyone knows 10 realtors. And so you got to really differentiate yourself. And so what I really focused on, and it's actually a passion of mine through athletics, is when you're on a team and you're basically grinding through a season with your teammates, you really develop a bond and you really want to see these guys succeed, especially in the professional levels. You want to see them get signed. You want to see them move up to the next phase. And so I took that to heart in my business. And through flow, I would always ask these, my friends, family, even people I don't even know, is I would be like, all right, what do you, a lot of them retirement, or they want to open up another business, or they have plans and goals outside of what they're doing currently. And then I would leverage my network and say, all right, how can I help this person? And usually then I would pair them and I just send them a note card or a text or a call. And I'd say, hey, I think this guy could be a great resource for you in trying to open up that business or start this next goal in your life. And it developed an unbelievable organic referral network that I didn't even see coming, because it's not like they felt like they owed me, but they had
You
just
created
a
value.
newfound respect. Yeah, I created value
Absolutely.
for them.
Absolutely.
As we kept going down that line, then they would refer their family and their friends, and maybe they weren't the one looking to purchase, but it would always come back around. And I think one thing my mom's always stressed is you got to create value, and you got to have the client experience to be number one. And even if they're not looking at buying, they probably know 3 or 4 people that are.
And you magically bridge that gap between you created value for them in something other than the way real estate touched their lives at that moment, right? But you also established yourself as the source of real estate knowledge and
Mhm.
the professional that they could trust to refer their friends and families to, even if they'd never used you. That is not easy to do.
Mhm.
We all know a lot of realtors, and the reality is we've all worked with some that you probably would refer to and some that you wouldn't. But it's kind of hard to refer to somebody that you've never worked with directly unless you establish a relationship like you did. So that's pretty incredible. We talked a little bit about the mentoring piece of this and how you had mentors and you've had people that you've modeled. Tell us a little bit about the group of high achieving agents that you surround yourself with and what that's done for your business.
Yeah, I think that was an unbelievable piece to my business. It was almost two-pronged. You did the client value, but then as a rookie, you gotta know how to kinda make these promises of, "Yeah, I'm your guy as a realtor," but then you gotta follow through and know the transaction process, know the things that are gonna come up on an inspection, and know all those details in a transaction. And so I really leaned on, one was my mom, who obviously has been in the business for 20 years. And then she has a best friend named Marnie Long. And then I leaned on Kyle Basner and a few others in the group who are very high achieving, top level realtors. And I would just 20 question them. How do you handle this? How do you handle this? And I would never be shy of giving them a phone call if something came up, because at the end of the day, they want to help. They want to provide value to you, and especially if they like you.
Yeah.
And so I think that 10x my learning and just how a transaction proceeds from start to finish. And that was the second prong that just 10x my knowledge on real estate to allow me to bring that superior value.
It's noteworthy that you, number one, had the courage to do this, to reach out to other agents in the company. Now, the group has a really unique collaborative culture, and Marnie and Kyle are probably number one and number two in the company,
They are.
right?
Yep.
So you didn't just go to somebody that was in the office next to you. You went to the person whose results you want to emulate. You
Mhm.
want to be a top producer at that level, and you learn from those people. I think that's pretty remarkable. I want to talk about one of the pieces of advice that your mom gave you. It's funny. There's a book that needs to be written on sales that's literally says just call them. And maybe the second chapter of just call them is always answer your phone. Tell me about the situation where your mom gave you that advice and what it's meant for you.
Like I said, my mom's been a cornerstone in helping me build my business. And I would ask her as I started, I would say, all right, what's top few things I need to hammer down, I need to learn that other agents don't do? Because she's dealt with these people for 20 plus years. And it's all goes back to differentiating yourself. And she goes, the first thing she said is always answer your phone. And then the second one is run your business like a 9 to 5 storefront. And a few things those always do is when you can get back to someone in a very quick manner, whether it's email or phone, it already builds a sense of trust that you're working for them. Even if it's, I'll get back to you later today. I see this, but I'll get back to you later today. It just builds a sense of trust. And then running your business like a 9 to 5 with many realtors, especially in the first year, you don't have someone like a boss telling you when you need to be in the office, what you need to be doing. So if you almost set your own hours, all right, I'm going to work 9 to 5, 5 days a week. And then on weekends, do a few open houses, continue to work, even if no one comes in, you always have to have something to do. There's always something to do. And so when you set it, you almost time block those times, it forces you to get more work done than you would have if you were, just piecemealing things.
It's really good advice. I think a lot of us get into this business so that we don't have a 9 to 5 and nobody tells us what to do, right? You get away from a boss and away from a time clock, but assigning that back to yourself gave you some structure to your days. And somehow magically, you managed to play a little bit of golf. You managed to hang out with your buddies a little bit. It
Mhm.
all falls together. And you have results that have given you such a firm foundation of both stability in your business and structure to your business that you're going to probably continue to do what you were doing because of the results that you had.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's talk about imposter syndrome. The idea that self-doubt and uncertainty about, hey, I'm brand new in this business and I'm supposed to be the advisor to somebody who may have more real estate experience than I do. How did that creep in? Did it? How did you deal with it? What did that look like? Because I think that's a huge challenge in the first year for many people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so there's a few steps to this, and I'm glad you touched on it. I would say with anyone starting something new, you're going to have a lack of confidence in some areas. But when I was playing baseball and it was my sophomore year of college, and I was at Northeastern Junior College, and I just walked on to that school and was named an opening day starter and had a ton of opportunities for scholarships at the Division I level. When I went as the opening day starter, I got the yips pretty much. I couldn't find a strike, and so I went from having 10 plus Division I scholarships to having zero. I could not get a text back from these schools. And so I had a mentor reach out. He was my high school basketball coach. And he said, hey, I'm going to put you in touch with a sports psychologist, and it'll just give you some direction. And I think it'd be good for you. And I was like, hey, anything helps. I need some sort of direction.
Yeah, that's
here.
cool.
And so I sat down with this sports psychologist, and that's when I really got introduced to affirmations, gratitudes, and really the mental toughness side of life.
Mm-hmm.
I was so disciplined in these. I'd wake up and I wouldn't just do 10 affirmations. I would do 5 pages of affirmations, and I do 10 of each thing I was trying to change in my life. So it was very baseball oriented. So I say, I have a dominant fastball, and I do that 10 times. And then I'd go to another pitch or another phase of the game, just because I needed to get better so fast, because the season was winding down. And I think because I became so disciplined in that, it ingrained kind of it rewires your brain.
Yeah.
Is basically what it does. And so then I had this kind of confidence that maybe isn't always leading in the right direction, but I walked in and I looked at my mom who is succeeding, and I was like, well, she's no different it's not like she's, it's like when you look at very successful people and you meet them personally and you're like, well, they're not so much different than you.
Sure.
And so I was like, well, I think like the first year I was like, well, I think we could double your business because I'm joining, even though I have no experience.
Sure.
But it's like 2 people. I think we could totally double your business.
Yeah. Because stuff work. Right?
And as many people would say, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. For some reason, I really believed it to my core. And so then when I walked into me starting my own set of business in 2024, I'd seen the success we had, and I was like, all right, I think I can do 20 plus transactions, because that's only about a quarter of what we've been doing, or a third of what we've been doing. I think I can do that.
Yeah.
And then I feel like once you have that confidence, it makes you talk to people in a different way. It makes you learn in a different way, and you're surrounding yourself with people who are just excelling that process. So I think it really comes down to mindset and having the proper foundation once you start anything. And that was set. And then once, I started it, it was like, all right, let's build off of it and let's just hit the go button.
Yeah.
And then it just takes a lot of hard work.
It's so funny. The idea of, I want to come in and double your business, or I want to do 20 transactions in my first year, make the kind of money that you did. It seems arrogant until you make it happen. And that then looks confident.
Yeah.
So there's this little rear view mirror that you have to look in and realize that you had decided this would happen long before, and you never let anybody talk you out of it.
Absolutely. And I think there's a right way to go about it. It's not like I was running around the office my first year saying, I'm going to do X amount of transactions to these people.
Yeah. You were
But
talking to yourself.
I was talking to myself.
Yeah.
And I was writing those goals down, and I just believed in those goals. And I was talking to my mom about it. I do think there's a benefit of telling someone you trust,
Yes.
and putting those in the air.
Absolutely.
And because then once it's in the air, you got to make it happen.
You better. That's exactly right. You've had this really meteoric ride, right? So like, this has gone very quickly. The trajectory of your career is exponential. It's kind of one of those things of like, is it more about maintaining momentum? Are you just trying to keep the altitude you've achieved? Or where do you see this going? Do you want to continue to grow the business and see where this is going to take you? What's your goal from here?
Yeah, I think as any entrepreneur running any business, they want to see their business grow year over year. And so I obviously set big goals again in my second year of where I wanted to be, and what I wanted to make, and the transactions I wanted to do, and how many people I wanted to help through real estate. It's in our business development meetings, usually every November and December, when we kind of lay out our next year and what we're going to get better at and what we're going to do. We always lay out our goals and what we want to do. And so I think I think you'd be a bad business owner if you didn't want to keep pushing the needle forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so we definitely have high goals to continue. And then as my mom, whenever she decides to phase out into retirement, I think it's building off that. Cause like you said, it's the goal I had from the start of this when I started working with my mom is I want to leave your business in a better position than you started it.
That's amazing.
And so I see a lot of parent and son or daughter relationships, and some people just push that damn needle and it's impressive, and other people kind of let it slip. And so I think in my position, I always want to see it move forward. What that is, we'll kind of see that in a year-over-year basis. I don't know if I can predict 5 years into the future, but our goal is always to keep pushing the needle and getting better in certain areas.
Yeah. You've got some time. Your mom's probably not ready to retire yet.
Yeah.
And so you've got to run these parallel paths with her of both adding value to her business while continuing to create yours.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a great journey. Let's talk about everything that we have said so far is pretty rosy, right? I think you've done all the right things. You've said all the right things. What has sucked? Something about this first year in real estate has just not gone right. You had a pitfall. There's something you were doing wrong. What hasn't worked? And what have you done about that?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's like with every journey, people don't see the times it sucks. They just see you celebrating the achievements.
Yes.
And I would say the thing I had to learn really quick is if it's hard for you, it's hard for everyone. And so when I would be going through this, I'd be doing my real estate reviews and I'd be on number 20 and I'd be looking blue in the face. And I was like, all right, if it's hard for me, it's hard for everyone. And only a few people push past the hard to actually, put in the work and time, especially now in my age. I'm still in my 20s. And so a lot of the people I'm competing against in their rookie years are young and they maybe haven't grinded like I did in athletics. And so I think I just kept going back to when I was in athletics and you're in the weight room all the time. You're not going to work out once and then go in the mirror and be this jacked human.
Yep.
But you put together 3, 4, 5, 6 months in the gym continuously, you're going to look like a brand new person. And so I think I put that same kind of mindset into my business of if I do these 20 real estate reviews today, I'm probably not going to see the needle move tomorrow, but I may see it 6 months from now, 7 months from now, 8 months from now. And so that's kind of how I viewed it. And then on the second phase is my mom, when I was starting this business, she goes, you always have to provide superior value in your business. And so there was a ton of times my first year that I would be working with people or providing them all this real estate information. And it would be months and months. And I'd be just putting a ton of hours in with these people, and then something would change. And they would either use a different realtor or their plans changed or they decided to move out of the state or not come here. And it's defleeting.
Disappeared,
And it's truly it just deflates you. And so that's one thing I had to learn. And that was probably the lowest pitfall. But in a rookie, you're trying to chase every lead. You're trying to provide as much value as you can to kind of earn that respect and the knowledge that you have. And so that was probably the toughest part, is putting in a ton of time with people and then they end up going in a different direction.
I mean, that's where the word grit comes from, right? Is the doing the things that you have a deep belief will create results without seeing them in front of you, and continuing to do it
absolutely
is all you can do.
And I think to add on that is I always tried to touch base with them on a phone call after that. And I would always say, you know what, I'm happy where you guys are going. And I would try to be very positive about it.
That's
like, I truly hope this works out for you. Let me know if there's anything else I can provide for you. And there was actually probably 1 or 2 times that it ended up by me not burning that bridge and being sour. They actually gave me a client on the back end.
Interesting.
If it was a friend or a family member, because they did appreciate the hard work I did for them.
Yeah.
And so by me not burning those bridges out of just being pissed, it actually paid me back, which was fantastic.
Keeping it classy means you never have to apologize, right?
Exactly.
That's cool. That's really cool. Okay, so you have about, at this point, 18 months under your belt of a highly successful real estate career. And then you decided that in about 3 weeks, you need to become a dad. So you and your wife are expecting a child. Let's talk a little bit about that because I think that the younger rookie in real estate is balancing a lot of outside life things. And they're intense, right? And this is your first child, so you're a little bit uncertain. But tell us a little bit about how you've not just built a great business, but how you've built a great life and a life that you would want to welcome a child into.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question because, and it's funny, when I was in the first 6 months of my career and I was working 7 days a week and grinding and I was getting a little burnt out. And my mom goes, because I was like, how the hell have you done this for 20 plus years? Like, and you're not burnt out. And
Yeah.
and she told me, she goes, sit down with your wife and build a dream list. And so I went home that night and my wife and I cooked dinner and I was like, all right, I think we should build a dream list. Like, what do you want? And we talked for about 2 hours, and it was everything from the skincare routine that she wanted to the vacations we wanted to go on, the rental properties and investments we wanted, and just our whole dream list. And we have it in our notes app. And I think what we realized through that conversation was, and my wife has a fantastic career that she cares a lot about too, and works very hard in it, is we realized that the hard work we're putting into our careers, it's very fulfilling when we're able to check stuff off of our dream list.
Yes, it is.
And so that kind of put things into perspective of what we were working for. And it allowed me to not get burnt out as much because I was like, I can do 2 more real estate reviews or 2 more note cards or 2 more not cold calls, but reaching out to people who I'm in flow with to maybe check off that vacation. And so I think when we bring our boy into the world in 3 weeks, which we are just over the moon about, it's first of all, create an atmosphere where hard work is forefront. You're going to work hard for stuff. But on the flip side, if you work hard, you're going to get rewarded for it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's definitely becoming a dad's going to bring its new challenges. And I'm excited for it. And it'll probably put a lot of things in perspective for me. But it's just going to be another journey and another part of the story that I'm super excited about.
You're a with it guy. You're going to be an amazing father. You are going to learn how to be better in all areas of your life. You're an amazing achiever, right? And you're just adding a whole different element to the plate. One that I went through the fatherhood thing 3 years ago for the first time. It's bananas. It's amazing. Everything that you've ever heard about it is completely true. And it's exactly what you make of it. So you're going to crush it and you're going to do amazing in your real estate business, because you've had these conversations up front. I think at the end of the day, the life list or the dream list that you have, that's your why. That's what we're doing, right? Everybody here is probably in awe of what you've put together, the results, the mindset, not just your real estate business, but your life prior to real estate. You are an achiever. You've done a lot and you're going to continue to do a lot. And you've probably created all of this by design. So if somebody looks at this and says, hey, that's something I would like to emulate, what advice do you have for them?
Yeah, that's tough to pinpoint one thing because, like I said, I feel like it's pulling on a lot of different levers. And I think the first thing is you got to be really confident in who you are at first. And you have to have a pretty straightforward vision of what you want your life to look like and what you want to achieve. So your goals have to be outlined well. And then I think it ultimately comes down to, and people have found success on accident, but they found it on accident because they've worked their butt off. And so I think you could have as many goals as you wanted to, but if you're not putting in the work, you're not going to get there. And you could have this grand vision, like everyone wants to live the lifestyle they see on social media, but if you don't put in the work, it's like you said, you don't see the pitfalls in that and the work they've put in. And I think one thing that put it really into perspective is I was talking to Kyle Basner, and he had an unbelievable rookie season, and he's put together a career that is unbelievable in his first, I think he's been in it only 7-8 years.
Yes.
And he, like I said, he's flip-flops 1 or 2 in the company. And the amount of phone calls he makes, the amount of time he takes to reach out to people, the dinners he takes, the extracurriculars he goes on to be in flow with as many people as possible, it's really eye-opening. And it's like you say, with flow, you should be reaching over 100 people a week. But if you really want to be successful, like in Ninja, you outline the amount of real estate reviews you should do, the note cards you should do, the amount of people you should be in flow with a week. And really, if you want to take results times, high level results, you got to multiply that by 5.
Yes.
And you got to do as many real estate reviews as you can pump out. You got to do as many note cards as you can pump out. You got to do you got to be in contact with as many people as possible because, and it just comes back to the hard work. You got to push past the hard.
You are right there. There's leverage in that, though, is that doing twice as many real estate reviews or 3 times as many can yield much more than 3 times. It's not a linear effect. It is exponential. And, I think you wrap this up perfectly and you set the stage for something. Your confidence was the result of having a system and experience. You didn't just drop into signing an independent contractor agreement, start an Instagram account, and suddenly have $28 million in volume, right? This is something that you designed and you ramped up into being an agent by working as an intern for your mom, working as an intern for other people, working as a licensed assistant to your mom. And then you decided to hang your shingle, put your name on the door, and start a real estate business. I think it's a very interesting approach. I think it's a very thoughtful approach. And it doesn't surprise me that you've had tremendous success because you're the guy who probably would be successful at anything that you did. So I thank you so much for being here. Is there anything you want to leave the ninjas with?
I don't think so. It's fantastic to be here, and I'm looking forward to hearing people succeed their rookie years. And honestly, even if you've had a down year, there's always a few key points here that you can implement in your business that could really skyrocket.
Absolutely.
So, thanks, Rob. I appreciate it.
Completely fair point that many people are reliving their rookie year because they're relaunching a career after some sort of disruption. So you can do the exact same things if you're relaunching or launching your career for the first time. So thanks so much, Koby.
Absolutely. Thank you.